you know what's in your toolbox? Pull up your chair, fill up your mug. You're having coffee with the prophet. I want to talk about the toolbox. And I want to deal with the toolbox mainly. I want to focus on some of the tools that I have in my toolbox. And then maybe you can take it and we can start relating it to your life and what's going on. Sometimes the things that we have in the toolbox, we have a tendency to want to cast them away because of where we're going, or our dreams, the visions, or the things that we want to do the next phase of our life. I don't know what it is for you. Writing a book, singing a song, starting a business, whatever that thing is. Sometimes we think our past has nothing to do with where we're going in the future, and we like to disconnect our past from our future because it may not make sense until we begin to really start taking a pencil and paper to it, start meditating, and really understand as we start going forward into the next level. That's where the spiritual coach come in, to try to help you tie and connect these different aspects of your life. But I want to do this. There's a African verb called Senkova. In fact, I have one of my Senkova jewelry on here, and it's a bird. But basically, a Senkova says this. The African Proverbs says this: it's not forbidden to go back and proclaim the knowledge of your past. Now, we don't have to go as far as dealing with the ancestors, but basically, let's go back to the beginning of our life, from the time perhaps we was born, or even the times we start working or you start dreaming, whatever those particular things is. And we want to take them and now begin to start putting them together. One thing you're going to hear me use in some of these teachings is this guy, man, I think his name is Todd Soller, but he talks about metaforming, which is discovering the genius within you. And one thing, what happens when we get into the dreams and things, you're dealing with a metaphor, and then metaforming, then start shaping those abstract dreams. But I just touched base on. Don't want to really stay right there at this particular time, but I really want to focus on a lot of things how I want you to look at certain things as far as my life, how I became what I've came up to this point. What you may say makes me certified as a spiritual coach. And a lot of times you may look, depending on what part of my life you're looking at, you would say, well, I don't know if this guy is qualified, whatever the case is. I always said, well, my background is I had a pastor at church for over 10 years. And they called me prophet, interpreting dreams and visions and things from that aspect. But now my career has always been, I had a handyman home improvement business for years. So building things has been a large part of my life, figuring things out. I've done things from roofing to, carpentry, framing, houses, plumbing, painting, even pressure washing, landscape, just a little everything. So I've been one that had used my hand much in the past, just figuring things out from that aspect. And the ministry part came in, and then God started using me as far as really the dreams and the visions, started figuring certain things out from that aspect. Those was a gift. It was a thing that even when I shared about the dream that I've had, some of the things, it's hard to really put everything in there. But when I woke up, it was like also it was an enigma. It was a special gift that God has given me as well, almost like Daniel, to interpret dreams, special type of dreams. And the ministry at that time Dreams and Visions, then it became the Ministry of Joseph House. So why I'm sharing all this with you? Because these were the different things that was in my toolbox. Now, as I start progressing in those things into ministry, a lot of times I thought, that, okay, maybe I have to set the building aspect aside. But that wasn't true. In fact, a lot of times when I used to teach, when I was teaching, a lot of that would come in my teaching about foundation and things from that aspect. So it was something that always a part of me that I've used and what I've learned, not to fight it, but to bring it forth, and tie it into the next level where I'm going. We're living in a time now where, especially with technology, they use a lot of, with AI, they talk about tools and things of that nature. Well, all my life I've been using some kind of tools. But what I realized I had to learn to now start learning to transfer that concept, that hammer, that knife, that screwdriver. I'm looking around because I wanted to. I was supposed to have a tool set up here for you so you can see, just to give you a concept. Well, I forgot about that. That's the prophet. But here's the thing, and also, so I want you in these things or in these lessons have a tendency now to begin to go back and start asking you, pondering with questions. What is it about you? What about the things you like or don't like, or whatever the case is? One thing what I found out, when you really start dealing with individuals, interpreting their dreams or things from that aspect, what they thought they want, they come to find out that it was something even deeper under that, you may say, discovering that hidden gem or diamond. So, and that's how really the concept began and it was birthed. One thing about when we talked about having coffee with the prophet, so a lot of times when you have a dream, you have to have it interpreted before it can manifest and any shape or form can take place. A dream just in the mind, if you don't pull it out of the spirit, it never become a reality, or it never become reality right here, or grab form or shape here on this plane right here. That's why a lot of times you may dream something, and if you don't write it down or something like that, or you dream something and then the next morning you can't remember it, it sort of eludes you. That's why when you have a dream, a lot of times you write it down, you record it, or you have to really speak it. So in this concept of what I do with having coffee with the prophet is, when you go back, you have to go back to my other video, in the past, where I talked about the dream that I've had. So now the prophet becomes that of the interpreter. So we start shaping and forming these particular things, what God is saying, right? In that sense. So what is it going to take now for those things to begin to manifest? I think I shared with you, in that dream, we talked about where the dream that I had, it seemed to be miles of babies, but that was aborted before their time. That sort of thing. Looked like it was a junkyard. And I heard the Lord said these is prophets, apostles, and prophetic people that would have been. But what have happened was the church has killed them off before their time. Now, and I want you to really think about this thing. We're going to look at it from a spiritual sense. Not that, the church is just totally against this thing. And when I said church, depending on what type of ministry or whatever you come from, but really understanding how to give birth, how to mold and shape certain things. Now, I said that, but also it's universal for what that dream. So it was also a metaphor for dreams that we may have. If they're not handled correctly, what happens is they can be aborted. So you got to be careful that you don't abort your dream. That's where I want you to get at. So having coffee with the prophet, he shares, he does the articulating in a lot of ways. Now, the aspect that we talk about the ministry of Joseph House is where I use this analogy. Now, what happened is the leader come, take it. Now, that dream, we take it to the ministry of Joseph House. Now, in the ministry of Joseph House, I begin to interpret that dream, right? Now the dream takes form. It takes life. It becomes something. You have an idea. See, when a dream takes form and it manifests, now you bring it into the next level, right? Now, in the ministry of Joseph House, The dream is interpreted. So we deal with all the other abstract things from that aspect. Now, what happens with that dream, now you work with it, you get insight. Now it becomes more of a vision, right? Vision is something you can see direction. Now there's a couple of visions, but I won't get into all that. Sometimes there's a vision just seen in the spirit realm. But now a vision is clearly in the direction. Now I have some concept what I need to do with this dream. So what we do, we take this dream. I take the dream. When I'm working with you, I take the dream and we're going into the dream room. Now the dream room is where the coach really go to work. The coach does what you call deep work or deep coaching. That dream now becomes a vision. We shape and form that visions. So in the midst of it, start dealing with you, asking a lot of questions. We're getting insight. We're going deep in a lot of areas of certain things in reference of your life. The things that you're looking for, and depending on what it is, sometimes there's a time limit to work with or to work through these particular things. Now, ultimately, with the vision, see, the vision now is clear. So you had that dream. You took that dream from the dream aspect, took it to having coffee at the prophet. We brought it to the ministry of Joseph's house. It was interpreted. Then now we took it to the dream room, and we began to work it and manifest the vision. So now it takes shape or form that now you can see yourself clearly in the direction of what you should be doing, your purpose in life, and things from that aspect. And what happens now, when we get finished doing the deep work of things from that aspect, what happens is you look at whether it's an entrepreneur, a book, or whatever the thing is that's in your heart that you're going to become. Now it becomes now the manifestation of that particular gift or ability. So one of the things is what we try to do, or the whole object is to sharpen those tools that's in your toolbox. What happens is when you talk about coming to a spiritual coach, he has a tendency now to take all the things that's in your life, and you can't see them because it's seem to be all over the place, and it's like a library. So through the coaching sense, have a tendency now to begin to start lining these things up, almost like put them in a file. You can see I go way back. Put them in a file. We do things with a computer now, but put them in a file where now you can see real neat. You can go back now, look at the records or the library of your life, and now we can begin to see now how we need to apply it. What's funny about a lot of that is sometimes people can see more in your life or in you than you can in yourself. Until you can really see those things in yourself, it will never manifest or never take place. So that's the thing in life. And that's what I want you to really begin to understand about your dreams, the goals that you have. You have a toolbox. And you've got to examine your toolbox to a degree to really see and understand what's in there and how to use those particular tools. Because depending on what you have. Now, we can have a toolbox side by side. You have one, I have one. But what's in the toolbox, the things that we use, now a couple things might be in common, but for the most part, they're going to be unique. Because they're unique to our gifting and our ability, what we need to navigate certain things in life. Here's another thing I want to kind of halfway leave you with this. When we talk about our toolbox, our giftings and our abilities, it's not just for us. The gift that you have is to touch someone else's life. So that's why it's so important that your dream don't die, that your dream live, that it proclaim life form. Because whatever you have, one thing what you got to understand, if a dream's going to be big enough, it's going to be effective, your dream has to be bigger than you yourself. When you dream, it has to be about touching someone else or touching their life as well. If it's just about what's going to serve you, you have not dreamed big enough. I'm going to leave you with this. Once again, I'm going to ask you, what is in your toolbox. Hey, you've been having coffee with a prophet